It is the most Instagrammed photo in Miami, and you've seen it dozens, if not hundreds of times throughout social media. Almost always, it's the same version, just a different person, usually a fashionable lady who is striking a glamorous pose in front of what appears to be an ornate fountain that is radiating fluorescent aqua colors. Well, that is the Versace Mansion, and for over a decade, it has been repurposed into a hotel and a restaurant. But every photo you see is at the restaurant. Why don't you ever see photos like this? Or why don't you hear about the hotel at all? It is the #1 lunch spot in Miami. Even with a reservation, the wait can be over 60 minutes just to get to your table. You would think at least a small percentage of those people would stay the night, or at the very least, you would hear some buzz about the hotel. But you don't. Nobody does. But why? Why does it go absolutely gangbusters for lunch and dinner, but go crickets at night? Well, I recently stayed there and I have all of the answers. 6 big ones to be specific. And in this video, I'm going to share my experience. And I'm going to tell you why it was one of the most mind-blowing, unforgettable hotel stays in my life. But I'm also going to explain why I cannot recommend staying there, why my return is highly unlikely, and I'm also going to tell you the one thing I regret the most. It will eat at me for a long time, literally. I wanted to do something special for my 100K live stream, and since my channel kind of officially began with Miami content, I kind of wanted to do the full circle thing. So I was looking for a place to stay that was crazy, cool, unique, different, upscale, luxurious, and voila, the Versace Mansion Hotel. That's not actually its official name. It's now regarded as the Via Casa Cachuerna, and it actually has 2 parts, Gianni's restaurant and then the hotel. Before Gianni Versace bought the property in 1992, the Via was owned by the heirs to the Standard Oil fortune, and that dates all the way back to when the family built the property in 1930. After getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and a long travel day, I finally arrived at the property just as lunch was finishing. Around 3 p.m., people were still kind of trickling out, snapping selfies, and even people on the sidewalk were stopping dead in their tracks right out front just to snap pictures of the outside of this iconic property. So I got out of my Uber and I was immediately confused. Nobody was there to greet me, no signs, no directions, no markings whatsoever. I walked up to the front gate and was met by 2 lovely hostesses, and they were wearing all black, which is the standard uniform, by the way. I think that's super cool. And behind them was a sprawling stone courtyard with lush, velvety black sofas that were way too stylish and expensive to even think about being outside. I took a look at the number of them and then just kind of took a look around and realized that the courtyard itself was probably worth more than every house on the street I grew up on. As I entered the stone arched way, I immediately stopped in my tracks. I had to. I found myself in some cramped little coat check area, which was, I guess, the front desk lobby. Back in the day, it was probably the front security office, but now this is the hotel check-in. It was definitely claustrophobic, but at the same time, authentic and intimate. Just one person working there, but that's all that's needed since there are only 13 rooms on property. Now remember this throughout the video. This used to be somebody's house. A person actually lived here. A place of this size, stature, style, and sophistication was able to be repurposed into one of the most elite hotels and restaurants in Miami. Every room on property is crazy. Even the base rooms. There are 4 premier suites, Aurora, Empire, Amore, and Medallion. There are 2 exceptional suites, Aviary and Azure. There are 3 royal suites, Roman, Mosaic, and Signature, and then 4 master suites, Venus, Ilmare, Jungle, and Gianni's master suite. The property is also crazy expensive. I got a last-minute holiday deal on Expedia, which helped justify the cost, kinda, but not really. Now, there is one drawback of booking third party, at least on Expedia, and that is I wasn't able to choose which suite I wanted. The only option I had was to book a base room, a premier suite, and then the room type would be assigned upon check-in. That is a problem. That's a major problem because when you take a look at these rooms, there is no continuity. in style, in layout, in anything. The motifs and just overall, the rooms are polarizing, like on a galactic level. If you've ever seen Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, or if you've been to Beecher's Madhouse at MGM, this would be the mansion version of that. But ultimately, all is well in the cosmos. Luck was on my side. I got the room I wanted all along, the Empire Suite. In my opinion, it is the best base room on property, and I'll talk about that in just a second. Check-in was a breeze. The room was prepaid. The bell person instructed me to go to the restaurant and make a reservation for the night while he took my bags up to my room. I walked through another archway and found myself in a grand atrium. And I took a moment just to appreciate the moment. Again, this used to be someone's house, and I can only imagine the stories and shenanigans that happened in these walls over the parties throughout these years. At the end of the atrium, I saw two more lovely ladies decked out in all black behind a kiosk. Again, nothing labeled, but I assumed that was where dinner reservations were made. I walked up and introduced myself, and they told me they were waiting for me. They asked me what time I wanted to eat at, and because I just kind of ate sparingly and sporadically throughout the day, and because I was exhausted, I said as soon as possible. They asked if 5:30 or 6 o'clock would work. I said absolutely. And I also asked if they could put me in a special spot, one of the better seats at the restaurant. And they said they would. Just wait until you see this. It wasn't quite dinner time, so I went over to the bar for a drink. For a bar that was originally in someone's home, it was actually quite incredible. If you know me and know the channel, I'm always on the lookout for the craziest, coolest, most eye-catching drinks, and this menu looked to have more than a few. Ultimately, I was guided towards the signature cocktail, the 24-karat margarita. After that, it was time for dinner, and dinner, by the way, is unquestionably the better experience compared to lunch. The difference is night and day, pardon the pun, and I'll touch on that in just a second as well. Like I said before, the ladies were true to their word, and they indeed gave me the best seat, the best table at the entire restaurant. Poolside, stage left, and had both panoramic views of the pool and the dining area. Personally, I'm not one for people watching, but if I was, that is the spot. All of the best seats are by the pool, but this one was really great because it was to the left and secluded. I didn't have to deal with those annoying vloggers and social media people who would always walk up to the center and then snap a picture of the pool behind them. Terrible. So very quickly, here is my overview or spectacle of a dinner. The waiter asked what I wanted to drink. I told him to surprise me. I didn't mean it verbatim. He literally did. He must have been some sort of mentalist or mind reader because he brought me the perfect drink in the perfect scenario. It was an espresso martini, and I'm calling this thing the greatest espresso martini of all time. Can we just take a moment together to appreciate the immaculate layering as well as just the amazing aesthetics? This thing was a work of art. It was almost too pristine and beautiful to drink. This was an early reservation. I did plan on eating again later. I didn't want to go too heavy. So for the time being, I kept things light. I saw Kushi oysters on the menu. Those are my favorite. And unfortunately, they were not Kushi. Now, I only have 3 types of oysters. I only eat 3, Kumamoto, Kumiai, and Kushi. I know Kushi when I see them. These are not Kushi. There were 2 namesake dishes on the menu, and I always say you have to order the namesake dish when you go to a restaurant. If you see the name of the property, the owner's name, the chef's name, or basically the brand on a dish, you have to order it because they are highlighting that dish for a reason. Usually it's their best or most famous. Also, I think it's a great way to force yourself outside your comfort zone and try something new. I ate as quick as possible. Well, as quick as I could while still maintaining the lowest threshold of class. But I had to get up to my room and do the live stream. So I jetted up there. And I want you to remember that this is just the basic room. Again, this is the Empire Suite, 600 square feet. It has a sitting area as well as a king-size bed. It's themed after the Ottoman Empire, and it has murals of sultans as well as honey and jewel color scheme throughout the entire room. The coolest thing about the Empire Suite is actually not inside the room. It's what's outside of it. The Empire Suite shares a private foyer with Gianni's master suite. The granddaddy of them all is right next door, and you share the entryway. In fact, back in the day, the Empire Suite was known as the mistress suite or mistress's suite, because that is where the mistresses or misters would sleep after the end of a night with Gianni. Overall, I would describe the room as palatial, ostentatious, just absurd luxury. It radiates timeless galactic class and oozes sumptuous decadence. A complete lack of sleep, a long travel day, some food, and a bed that is literally made for a king put me into a 12-hour coma. I awoke the next day in some type of refreshing stupor, but I had to snap back to reality because I realized I missed the thing I probably was looking forward to the most, and that is breakfast. Why, you might ask? Because it's free. Usually, the more expensive the property, the more tic-tac fees you encounter, and that's because the clientele can afford them. You never get anything free at places like this, yet breakfast here is free, and I missed it. And it will eat at me for a long time, not just because I missed my favorite meal in a place as exquisite as this, but also because that is the only time the pool is open. The pool is only open to guests, and it's only open for a short window in the morning. I planned on having breakfast, some drinks, and marinating in the pool for a couple hours, and now, well, that dream is dead. So I packed up, I checked my bags. I was hungry, and since I was there, I just figured I'd grab lunch to see what that was like. It wasn't open yet, so I just walked South Beach to get some steps in. Before I left, I did not make a reservation. And I'm not sure it would have even mattered if I did, because when I came back, it was packed. It was a zoo. It was nonstop frenzied commotion. Every single table was taken. I walked up and put my name in, and they told me it would be just a few minutes. I knew better than that, so I told them to find me at the bar. I didn't really mind because me and that cocktail list had unfinished business. But after 90 minutes of stiff and sensational cocktails, my mind was more focused on a nap than it was lunch. I figured they just forgot about me, or even worse, my table wasn't ready yet. So I just decided to leave. I wasn't mad. I was actually just indifferent because of the drinks and because I was tired. I grabbed my bags, I walked outside, and as my Uber was pulling up, I get a tap on my shoulder. "We couldn't find you," they said. Okay. "Do you still want your reservation?" they asked. And I hesitated. I definitely hesitated. Call it class, honor, respect, decency. Call it whatever you want. I said, okay, I'll go back in and I'll eat lunch. I did put my name in for a spot. What that's called actually was stupidity, because lunch pales in comparison to dinner. The relaxing, vibrant, classy ambiance from dinner was replaced with a bright, bland, crowd white noise. The dinner menu for lunch was trimmed considerably. It was basically a glorified mix and match. I think it was like 2 dishes for $38. That definitely explains the big crowd and long line. Food quality drastically reduced at lunch compared to dinner. So that was my 24 hours at the Versace Mansion Hotel, aka the Via Casa Cushwerna. Why don't people stay there? You probably picked up on a few reasons already, but let me go over the 6 big reasons why. First of all, it is expensive. With the base rooms starting at $800 a night when you include taxes, resort fees, and everything else, I think that immediately prices out about 95% of travelers. But it's not all about price. People aren't staying there mainly because it's expensive. In fact, Faina and one hotel have base rooms that sometimes go over $1,000 a night. And those hotels have no problem with occupancy. So it's more than just being expensive. Another one would be location. Even though it is in the heart of South Beach, it's kind of in an awkward area. It feels isolated. There are definitely better spots that are closer to the South Beach action. And more importantly, no beach access. Well, no hotel beach access. I mean, of course, the beach is public. It's right across the street. But actually, it's across the street over off in the yonder beyond the park. It's probably a quarter-mile walk. And no portion of it is maintained by the property. That means no chairs, no umbrellas, no wait staff, no food, no drink. You are on your own devices. Basically, you are Bear Grylls in Miami. So if you want to go to the beach and you're staying at the Versace Mansion, grab your towel, grab your chair, grab your stuff, grab your cooler, and pretend you are in Atlantic City and get out there and claim your spot for the day. So I think that's a big reason, especially if you're in South Beach. But if you're staying Miami Brickell downtown, there is no beach anyway. it's all about the pool. But that's a problem as well because there really isn't one. The main pool technically is the pool at the restaurant, but that's like a glorified fountain or basically a waiting pool at best. And plus it's only open in the morning from 8 to 10 a.m. And the only pro travelers in South Beach that are awake at that time are ones who did not sleep the night before. So the restaurant is the feature attraction, and that is open to the public. You don't have to stay there to experience that. Anyone can get a reservation, go experience the famous Versace Mansion for a couple hours, and then go back to your reasonably priced hotel. Also, it just isn't a very comfortable place to be. I'm not saying it isn't gorgeous, stunning. It's basically unforgettable, but it's not comfortable. It was never intended to be a place for public hospitality. It was someone's private home. The layout, the colors, the materials, the vibe, even things like bathrooms. It just wasn't a comfortable place to be. It's crowded, but there's no crowd. Nobody is there to hang out and enjoy themselves. Everyone is there basically just to eat. And Miami is all about the social scene. And without anyone being social, there is no scene. And lastly, number 6, because of those 5 reasons, it is a one and done hotel stay. It's amazing, it's marvelous, it's borderline magical, but it's one and done. And because of the nature of one and done psychologically, there's closure, it's finished, it's kind of put in the past, it's not happening again, so therefore there's no more anticipation or excitement. It's not something you're going back to. So it loses a lot of gravitas or mind share among people who have stayed there. It's actually more of a riddle than it is a resort or hotel. What is the most popular spot in Miami? The most famous spot, a place where everybody goes but nobody stays. The Versace Mansion Hotel. It's also ironic because it's one of the craziest, coolest, most unique, unforgettable hotel stays I've ever had in my life. I have no regret whatsoever. But also, if I never experienced it in the first place, I also would not have any regret.